Hello and welcome back to another episode of RE Radar, your go to source for all the latest insights and updates in the real estate world. Once again, I am your host and realtor, Nathan Matheson. And today, it's the start of a new month. Well, at least the first week of the new month. And what that means is we are doing a dive into the Seattle housing market's performance for this past month in February. I did one for January. Now it's time to check out February. So whether you're a buyer, a seller, or you simply are curious and want to stay up to date on real estate market trends, I've got you covered here on the radar. So let's just get started right here. And now, if you had missed my January market update, the key takeaway from that month was that we saw action happen. Things started to happen in the real estate world this past January. Quick stat for you on that. There were the most new listings in January since January 2011. So that was 14 years. So the new listings are popping up in January, but did that continue into February? Let's find out right now. And a little side note quick, just like last month, the stats I'm pulling up here are from Seattle, residential and condo stats. And just like last time, if you are watching on YouTube, you're going to see these stats pop up on the screen. And if you're listening, you'll just get to listen to me tell you all about these good numbers. And just like last time, starting off with the big ticket item, the thing that people always are looking at, and that is the median sale price in Seattle. This past February, that number was 828,000. That is up from January, which was 770,000. So it's about a 7% increase. And just looking at the historic chart and isolating the months of January to February, what I found is that percent change is pretty common for historic trends recently, with how February kind of builds off of January. And for February, that $828,000 median sale price this year is actually down from last year, 2024, where that number was $845,000. And one of the potential reasons I think that could be is the amount of inventory that has been brought onto the market recently. And that's also kind of why I'm pretty optimistic about this upcoming spring market with how many new listings we've been seeing recently. As how I see it, January and especially February is kind of the building blocks of the spring market. The before spring market, loading up, gearing up, getting ready for that big push. And so this past February, what did we see new listing wise? Well, we saw 1,050 new listings. Compare that to January's 1,065. So slightly less in February. But again, remember, January, that was a record year in January since 2011. And now for February new listings, aside from 2021 and 2022, that was the most new listings we'd seen in February since 2010. So in the last 15 years, that was the fourth most new listings for a February. So just like in January, we are seeing more and more people listing their homes in February than historically average. And if you had watched my 2025 market update that I put out for the whole year, that was kind of one of the things I hinted at. And people are starting to realize in 2025, they need to move for whatever reason that may be: job change, job loss, family status change, all these different potential changes. People have been holding off. They've been holding off. And unlike in 2024, people finally understand here in 2025 that mortgage rates are not going to get down to that ultra low 2-3% range that they were at during COVID. People understand that's maybe never going to happen again, and that 2025 is a great time to buy. But speaking of rates, what are rates exactly right now? Well, as of March 3rd, when I was writing out and planning this episode, rates for a 30-year fixed conventional mortgage was right about 6.76%. And the end of February was kind of marked with lowering of mortgage rates. At the beginning of February, what we were seeing in the mortgage rates were around 7%. And then as February progressed, it slowly got lower and lower each week. It seemed it even got as low as 6.6% before we had that slight increase to what it's at when I recorded this at 6.76%. And really, in my opinion, that is going to be the real sweet spot for mortgage rates for the next little while. And just specifically right in it, very narrow for the next few months, I would not be shocked if mortgage rates bounce between 6.5 and 7%. Big picture, people have started to understand a 6 to 7% interest rate is not the worst thing in the world, and it is manageable. So we've covered the median list price here in Seattle. We've covered the interest rates and what's going on there. Next up, let's just look at the month supply inventory. Just a little refresher on that if you do not remember what that means. What that is looking at is how many months would it take at the rate of current inventory selling for all the homes on the market to be sold. Now, this past January in Seattle, it was 2. And here in February, it's moved up to a whopping 2.1. So, not much of a shift. However, again, we're looking at some big picture things here on this episode. This is somewhat noteworthy. But before I even get into that, taking a step back and thinking about it a little logically, the month supply inventory typically, if you think about it, would be smallest in the winter months because what happens in the winter month, especially in Seattle traditionally, it's got the lowest points of inventory. So when there's much less inventory, it would of course mean homes will sell off and you'll clear out the current inventory much quicker than maybe in the summer or spring months when there's a lot more inventory. So it'll take longer to sell all that off. But what did we see and what have we seen to start 2025? Well, January had the most new listings since 2011. February has now had, I guess that'd be the fourth most new listings in the month of February since 2010. So, with more and more new listings than traditionally and what we'd average seen in the months of January and February, obviously it's led to more total listings available. The stats back this up as looking at it, this is the most amount of total listings in Seattle in February since 2013. So this all leads to that 2.1 month supply inventory, which is actually the biggest that month supply of inventory has been since, well, 2013 as well. So all these numbers kind of come back and we're tying it all together right there. What we are seeing, I've been throwing a lot of numbers at you. So just summarizing some of these points and potential main takeaways for you with these stats. The Seattle real estate market is definitely heating up. Things are happening. People are listing and selling their homes with COVID and the ultra low mortgage rates. We had less people willing to move for 2022 to 2024 because everyone was holding on to that 2% interest rate. Nobody was willing to move anywhere because why would they? Well, now people are having reasons to move. People are, for example, Amazon, they're bringing back their workforce. Amazon workers who might have moved out of the city, well, they're coming back into the city because you don't want to have to commute every day of the week, an hour plus to work. Who wants to do that? Not me. And so people are understanding and people are needing to move back closer to their work. They're having to sell, they're having to buy. So the Seattle real estate market is definitely picking up at the start of 2025, much more compared to what it was doing at the start of 2024. So that is definitely a good sign. Now, as far as the people who might be still on the sideline, who might still be holding out hope for those interest rates, well, home prices, little note for you guys, are still going up. I recently saw a post from the National Association of Realtors that had Washington State's home price appreciation at 5.7% from Q4 of 2023 to Q4 of 2024. So nearly 6% appreciation in the year. And then looking at a 4-year time frame, so from when COVID hit to 2024 end of, appreciation in the state of Washington was 49.5%. Home prices are still going up, and they're always going to be going up, it seems, in Seattle for the most part. Now, having a lower interest rate obviously is better. Obviously, people want a lower interest rate on their mortgage because it's going to lead to those lower monthly payments. But sometimes, if you do end up holding out, and if you are really trying to wait for that particular interest rate, you're going to end up paying more on the home actually in the end. Or you might end up missing out on that specific home that you had really liked, but you simply held off because you're like, I can't take these interest rates. I can't take these interest rates. Let's wait a little bit, hope the interest rates drop and I can buy the home then. Well, that home's probably sold by then. So Waiting for interest rates to drop could lead to you paying more for homes with appreciation going up, or it could simply have you miss out on a specific home that popped onto the market that you would have loved or you did love, but chose simply not to buy due to that interest rate. And on that note, just wrapping up here, things are happening. So if you are looking to kind of dip your toe into the market or talk about a little and explore your potential options, feel free to reach out to me. Happy to answer any questions, happy to help you out. But until then, this has been the Radar. This has been the February market update. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Till next time.